And for those who say, you know what, my man, I will be all of this for my husband. I'll be all 4 wives, for example. Okay, cool. That sounds great. But let me ask you a question. How you going to do that? How you going to change a man's biology? Salaam alaikum, peace. Coach Nadir, co-author of Let's Talk Polygyny Uncensored and one of the founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships. And I wanted to just share something with you. It's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I was recently one of the panelists on the Tammy Mack Late Show. It streamed online on Fox Soul, but it also aired on the West Coast, I think Channel 13 out in LA on August 26th. And it was very interesting because, we had people talking about the topic of the show was, are men meant to be monogamous, right? And there were people that were pro and con and so on. But of course, I'm an advocate for polygyny for those who are leaders and or more than twice the men, if you will, or men of value to practice polygyny. I believe that's one is more in tune with your nature to begin with. But it's always interesting to me when you hear men. And there was a gentleman on there, we're the same age, and he would say, you know what, I really don't, I don't really believe that to be true. I think that people lose their energy or their essence and so on when he was talking about that. And then it was funny because he also mentioned, as the show went on, that, I can't even, found out where I would have the time for more than one woman and this and that and so on, and I have to do this and all these different things. And I pretty much mentioned to the man, listen, then you probably want to focus on better time management skills or increasing your income in order to have passive income versus having a job. And it wasn't a slight at the brother, just to reinforce the thought that you actually have to be more than twice the man. So actually finding out and coordinating a schedule should be relatively easy. Now, let me back it up though a little bit because I want to talk about this topic of polygyny, just the basics. Because on the show, the idea was that with polygyny, you just have a plethora of women and are just being intimate with all these different women and stuff like that, as though that's not already happening. That's not polygyny. Okay, so definitions and words, of course, are important. So if you don't know what polygyny is, or you say polygamy, which of course is the umbrella term, let me break it down for you. Polygamy, in general, means a person who has more than one spouse. So either a husband who has multiple spouses or a wife who has multiple spouses. That's the general term polygamy. Now, historically speaking, I believe it's over 90% of the time when we talk about polygamy, we're talking about a man with multiple wives. That has a specific term. That term is polygyny. Okay, polygyny. All right. Now, a wife with multiple husbands is polyandry. Now, here's where it's important to differentiate before I talk about the next form of poly. Polygyny means that everybody pretty much is married to the same person. Polygyny means the women are married to the man. They're not married to each other, not intimate with each other, nothing like that. That's another form I'll talk about shortly. Then there's polyandry, meaning that a woman has multiple husbands. The men aren't married to each other or anything like that or messing around with each other. They're only intimate with this one woman. So those are the two forms that fall under polygamy. Now, what the show kind of got mixed up a little bit just because sometimes we don't know terms and we have these fantasies or ideas or hallucinations that go on in our mind is more polyamory. Polyamory just means, again, consensual adults having multiple relationships. They may be married, they may have boyfriends, girlfriends. These things are consensual. They have multiple sexual partners, okay, or multiple intimate relationships, whether they're sexual or not. So a husband can have multiple wives, girlfriends, boyfriends. They can be intimate with his main wife, if you will. There's usually a hierarchy or hierarchy, depending on how you pronounce the word, that goes along with this. So there's been a picture online that's been floating around that says, this woman has two husbands. When in reality, she doesn't have two husbands. They're practicing polyamory because the people that she's married to one guy, I think 15, 20 years, and then started dating another guy and so on. But that other guy has a wife. He has another girlfriend. Then the other guy also, so that's polyamory. These are consensual adults participating in There are different types and forms of relationships. Okay? And people can do whatever they choose to do. All right, period. Now, what I'm talking about is polygyny. That is a form of marriage. Matter of fact, an ancient form of marriage that provides a lot of modern day solutions. That's where a man, all right, a man has multiple wives. So when you think of commitment, and people are talking about monogamy and the love and commitment and growth and all of this stuff is absolutely true in any marriage. See, though I'm married to two women, my relationships with each of these women is my relationship with these women. So I have one relationship here and I have another relationship here. It's still a relationship. The growth, the love, the connection, all of these things are part of the relationship, having emotional maturity. See, with polygyny, the only difference is that there are multiple dynamics that you would not experience in monogamy. And also the challenge on the show was that they mentioned cheating so much. These young lady had mentioned that, my grandparents were married over 40 years. And yes, my grandfather cheated on her multiple times. Another young lady said, you know what? Well, I've lived life and cheating is not a deal breaker for me. Another was like, yeah, I know many people, and the majority of these celebrities and individuals, they have multiple relationships and affairs and stuff like that are known by their wives. And the wives, like, in general, say, listen, I have a good, comfortable life. Don't bother me with that stuff. If you do something like that, just don't bring it home. See, that's not polygyny. Polygyny is commitment. Polygyny is the only form of poly that is family-based. So when you're talking about it takes a village to raise a community and everything else, it's very important to understand that husband, that father, who is known, by the way, this is the only way you'll know without DNA testing or something like that, who the father is of a child. If the child comes from the husband or wife is not previously around from a previous relationship or something. So the thing is, when you look at this and it's family-based, when you just go ahead and try to relegate it or dismiss it to being something that's only sexual, that's a slight on all marriage to begin with. Because unless you're going around saying, okay, we have monogamy, my husband just married because he needs somebody to have sex with. No, see, because that love and that commitment, that growth and that caring and compassion and all of these different things that are part of marriage are also part of marriage and polygyny. It's not simply just sleeping around. I mean, again, it's easy to just go ahead and say that because in our society, cheating is much more accepted than a man taking responsibility for another family, raising his children, all right, being good to his wives, providing for them. All right, it's much easier to say, oh, yeah, cheating, because now the excuse goes that, well, you know what? Think about this when I talk about this excuse. It's said quite a bit that when infidelity occurs or a woman catches a man with infidelity, one of the questions she asks him is, did it mean anything to you? Did it mean anything to you? Because normally, again, women in general, I would say, are monogamous by nature because the cost of sex is high. Where a man is like, no, it was just a physical act. This is the traditional response when you read the many different studies when it comes to infidelity. The man's like, no, it's just a physical act. And you can look at that. We can see that in general. You look at society. You look at brothels. All right. You look at prostitutes. You look at things where there's a physical act that's done. They're not necessarily doing this for an emotional connection. Men who, have infidelity and whatnot in their relationships. So when you equate the two, it's massively disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the men who are working hard at taking care of their families. Many times taking care of additional children that were existing before him. Again, I live in a society where it is common to have single mothers, a plethora of single mothers all around. Okay, whether fathers are considered deadbeat dads and not doing what they're supposed to do, not stepping up. So, it's common. Or relationships didn't work out, they can be divorcees. But the children usually go with the mother. Just spitting facts. So it's massively disrespectful when we just sit up and go ahead and, relegate to something that's just something sexual or we equate it to cheating. See, the funny thing about the same brother, and again, no disrespect to the brothers, is people do and believe and act and deny whatever they like. All right, I'm not the guy to tell you, look, water is wet or the sky is blue. Either you see it or you don't. It doesn't matter to me whether or not you believe it. It's totally up to you. But he did mention that when he was dating, he said, I would date a number of different women at a time because, I figured this woman has this quality, this one has that characteristic, and I could date many of them in order to go ahead and have one make up for the other. And I said, it's a pretty interesting concept because and he figured that in polygyny, he said, when you find the right one, you won't have a need for any other woman type thing, right? And this sounds real Derek Jackson-ish to me. And if y'all know who Derek Jackson is, self-crowned. I mean, first of all, the king don't crown himself, but nevertheless, he's somebody who was saying, you got to treat the black woman as queen. You have to do this. As monogamous, black men don't cheat. All this type of stuff. Come to find out, he was doing all of the opposites that he was saying. He was saying, that men who cheat should get the things cut off and castrated and so on, and they're the scum of the earth. Let alone he's leading the king scum of the earth with all the affairs he was having, even including pregnancies and abortions, all kinds of crazy stuff, even when he was trying to apologize for it. So it was kind of giving off those type of vibes of energy. Because when you say that, you're unsatisfied or dissatisfied in marriage, so therefore you need another woman, listen, there's no human that's going to complete you 100%, woman or man. So it's unfair to say that about a woman. When you're a man, you're not going to satisfy every single thing with your woman. You're going to try to do as much as possible, everything that you can as possible, if you are a stand-up guy, if you're living on your values, if you are a man of value, striving to be a king, if you will. But you're not perfect. I'm not perfect, of course. We understand this. So to throw the idea out there that, you must be dissatisfied in this marriage if you desire to be more, or raise another family, or grow your family, focus on legacy, is pretty immature. See, we had to get to the discussion where monogamy protects men. It allows women to be seduced by their ears and tell them everything they love to hear about your knight in shining armor, and I do this and do that, and yes, we're lovey-dovey and all that. It allows that. But it protects men because it says, listen, this is your only legal wife. Anybody else, we don't recognize them. So any children that come from that, they're bastards. We'll give them a name and so on. But instead of addressing the man and holding him accountable and being more responsible, we go ahead and just give them an excuse. We shame the woman. When in reality, in the United States, if every man married a woman, there'd still be over 4 million women unmarried. And in my community in particular, we still have to address other situations where the black family's been at war for the longest, whether or not they know it. So whether it's being victims of mass incarceration, whether it's still being on the low part of the totem pole, when we're talking about education, talking about employment, healthcare, every single metric where we are failing, okay? Let alone our community is constantly being hit with and bombarded with the homosexual agenda. Again, people can do whatever they want to do. But in my community, and just the humans across the board, if we look at one man, one woman, and say there's 4 million women unmarried, there'd be a whole lot more women unmarried. When we're looking at compatibility, when you're looking at addictions and abuse, again, every 18 seconds a woman goes into the ER with a broken bone or something from domestic violence. Not that it doesn't happen to men, but that's really the anomaly. We're not talking about exceptions, we're talking about in general. So, when you talk about polygyny, when you talk about a man having more than one wife, understand this is not some legalized form of cheating. You're just spreading your seed and be with a whole bunch of different women. No, the same commitment, the same love, the same companionship, the same providing and protecting that you do in a monogamous relationship, a man of value or a king does well in polygyny. And when I'm talking about naturally speaking, unless you want to just deny basic biology, man can have children. He doesn't really have a biological clock on his children. Now, of course, his diet and lifestyle will affect whether or not he works properly. But we already know a woman is born with the eggs and she has a biological clock. A geriatric pregnancy, what is that, about 35, 36 years old? Right? So, just on that level with procreation and bringing babies into the world, we know there's a limit. Let alone, it was very funny because during the show, the host had mentioned that I'm not going to be doing, if a man wants to do something every day, intimately, that she's not ready for that. She can give himself, a few times a week. So just even in general, when you're talking about the drive or the ability to, again, basic biological level, not made for that. Whether it's a certain time of the month, during pregnancy, after pregnancy, I'm just saying. So the knee-jerk reaction, because I got the question also, what if your wives want another husband? I told them, my wives have done a video about that. Matter of fact, there's a link in the description regarding it. They want another husband. See, I strongly believe in gender roles. I believe men are supposed to provide, protect, and exert personal power. That's what they do. When it comes to being warriors and fighters and builders and so on, that's what we're supposed to do. So we believe in gender roles. Yes. All right, so if I'm going to go ahead and bring home the turkey bacon, I don't want to cook it. I can cook it. I don't want to cook it. But a woman is already nurturing. She's already nourishing. She can take a little and make it beautiful. Okay? This is simple. They already have an inherent value where a man must demonstrate his value to the society and community. Women already deserve to be protected, whether you're married to them or not. All right? So they already have that inherent value. So nevertheless, my wife did a video about it. And for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason there's this idea that women are just, brainwashed or silly or just, they don't love themselves or something if they are married to the same man. And I don't know about you, but ignorance and stupidity is not attractive. I'm married to two beautiful, intelligent black women. No question. That stand on their own. They have their own efficacy. So to come with a misogynist belief that, they just must be stupid. Now, you can deal with stupid women all you want to. But I remember, back with BDP, it said the girls look so good, but their brain is not ready. I'd rather talk to a woman because the mind is more steady. So no, my wives are highly intelligent. And they have their own lives and their own ideas and thoughts. They're not easily led astray, as many would like to assume, because when you assume something like that and be dismissive, then on your life, you can seem to be better or have something different instead of dealing with the facts and being real. Okay? And for those who say, you know what, my man, I will be all of this for my husband. I'll be all four wives, for example. Okay, cool. That sounds great. But let me ask you a question. How you going to do that? How you going to change a man's biology? How you going to do that? Now, that doesn't mean he's going to have to cheat. Again, we are pro-morals. So whether it's monogamy or polygyny, whatever it may be, we are pro-morals. That's what we advocate. So the example I would say, okay, cool, Beyonce got cheated on. It's a Beyonce. People rate her a 10. All across the board, she got it going on. She still got cheated on. But what if polygyny, think about it, what if polygyny was normalized? What if that was an option in our society? What if? Now, in order to do something, if you want to step out, you got to marry somebody now. See, the cost for that is much higher than simply having an affair. So we can go down the line and the long list of those who've had different affairs and all kinds of stuff. Say, you know what? If they were made to be accountable and responsible, if polygyny was actually on the table, maybe that wouldn't happen, or there'd be an honorable status for the women who are involved in things like this. You wouldn't have to deal with baller alert. You wouldn't deal with the Reverend Jesse Jackson with his illegitimate children, or Jimmy Swaggart with the prostitution, or all these different politicians who are in the public eye who are constantly cheating. I mean, it's just part of what it is. Or you get those the relationship or image consultants that are saying, you know what? Hey, listen, this is a high-value man. He's expected to cheat. You need to be happy. As long as he doesn't bring anything else home, any sexually transmitted disease or any outside kids, you should just be happy. Yeah, that's what we pro-morals. That's what polygyny is about. It's building family. Now, that does not mean it doesn't attract idiots. All right, that doesn't mean it does not attract predatory men. They understand the problems in our society, and they see that single families or single mothers are in a plethora, and they're looking for good relationships and all that, and they talk good and sound good because women are seduced by their ears and not by their eyes. But men are seduced by their eyes and not by their ears. So get a man involved, a father, an uncle, a mahram, somebody that can negotiate on your behalf and investigate on your behalf, sisters. I had these snakes coming up in here trying to tell you all these things that you want to hear just to leave you pregnant somewhere, or just to go ahead and hit it and quit and keep moving because it sounded good. Clearly, that's not serving our communities. So you work with this male relative, this man who has your best interest at heart, and you heed their advice. Good game recognize all game. And one of the challenges is that you get predatory men, and then you become part of their prey. They're not preying with you, they're preying on you. So, with that being said, that's a topic for a whole nother video. I just wanted to share that with you because, again, I'm Coach Nadir. I teach people how to get their shift together. With that being said, I'm going to end with GOC. Make sure you grow intentionally, love fearlessly, connect on a higher level every single day. And for men that want more information about being a king, developing into a man of value, go to oprkingsandkingdoms.com. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. Here are 3 ways outstanding personal relationships can help you.
One is by following us on our social medias. Follow us on IG at Outstanding Relationships and on Facebook and YouTube at Outstanding Personal Relationships. And make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Number 2, make sure you head over to outstandingpersonalrelationships.com and subscribe to the email list. From there, you will get downloads as well as updates, any and all updates. And you also get an update on the release of our new book, Let's Talk Polygyny, Uncensored.
Number 3, if you are serious about polygyny relationships and really developing fulfillment and happiness, make sure you register for our Relationship Mastery Inner Circle, which is members only, which includes downloads, it includes access to us live on a weekly basis. So that's at outstandingpersonalrelationships.com/RM. We'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace.